des Christlichen Bewusstseins. Und heute haben wir unseren speziellen Gast für heute, ist Grace Divya Simha Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So today's lecture will be given by Divya Simha Prabhu. Divya Simha Prabhu, viele von euch kennen ihn wahrscheinlich noch. Divya Simha Prabhu hat das Christliche Bewusstsein in 2006 kennengelernt und hat dann auch für ganze 10 Jahre hier im Tempel gelebt. Hat auf verschiedene Arten im Tempel gedient, als Buchverteiler, Tempelcommander und dann später auch als Vizepräsident. Haben wir zusammen auch gedient hier im Tempel und später auch als der Vereinspräsident der Christlichen Gemeinschaft Schweiz. Heute lebt Divya Simha Prabhu in Brasilien und lebt dort mit seiner Frau. Und sein Fokus ist auch die Spiritualität in die Berufswelt zu bringen oder die professionelle, wie sagt man, Corporate World, Conscious Leadership. So, jetzt auf dem Weg nach Brindavan. So schön, dass du da bist. Vielen Dank. Und Divya Simhas Vortrag, das Thema ist Reconnect, Resolve and Receive. Divya Simha wird gleich erklären, um was es geht, aber es ist eine Vorbereitung für diesen wunderbaren Monat von Kartik. Wir haben es mit der Sprache Englisch, Deutsch. Du sprichst in Englisch, ja. Wer versteht nicht so gut Englisch und bräuchte eine deutsche Übersetzung? Russian translation, huh? Yes, I think that will be arranged, yeah. Und deutsche Übersetzung kann ich sonst auch machen. Dann vielleicht in dieser Ecke würde ich dann eine Übersetzung ins Deutsche machen. Gut. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, also from my side, feel warmly welcome. Anyone here today for the first time? Anyone here for the second time?
Last time.
You should sit a little bit closer to me. It's a great pleasure to be back in Zurich, in the New Jagannath Temple here. As Krishna Premarupa Prabhu just said, it's like coming back home for me. Spent many years here and yeah, have a lot of very sweet memories and relationships. So for me it's very special to be here and I'm very grateful to all of you for coming today. Even the program is for free. You brought your most valuable resource with you, which is your time. And I want to reciprocate with you and I hope that we can create some value together. So thank you very much everyone for coming today. Let's chant a little bit. Kartels, bedanken. Does anyone not know that song Jaya Radha Madhava, which we usually sing? Do you know that song? Can we have some songbooks distributed? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Gunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gauda Premanandi Haribo. So welcome again. We have a lot of space here and here. If you are comfortable, you can also move there, and we see each other better. Wherever you feel comfortable, but you're mostly welcome to join also here. Yes, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, he introduced the topic for today, which is reconnect, resolve, and receive. So the subtitle for this would be how to enter the month of Kartik with purpose and devotion. Yesterday the month of Kartik started, and we prepared already our consciousness, but we want to increase our devotion during that month, and today's discussion should assist us in this endeavor. So before I start, I'm going to recite some prayers, and if you know these prayers, feel mostly welcome to join. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Jakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sicetanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakachatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripe Vancha Kalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the month of Kartik is well known amongst all the practitioners of Bhakti Yoga. Why? Because this month is full of blessings. If you want to make quick advancement, then be prepared to give your full focus and attention during this month to your spiritual practices. Now, today we will not go so much into the pastimes or the details related with that month, but more how we can tune our consciousness to really be present, to be absorbed during that special time. His Holiness Radhanath Swami, he said once, the month of Kartik is for the sincere devotees. So are we sincere devotees?
Yes.
Are you sure? So let's see. What did Maharaj mean by saying the month of Kartik is for the sincere devotees? Who is a sincere devotee? A sincere devotee is a follower. If someone tells you do this, then you do that. So maybe during the year we're not so sincere with our practice because we are so busy with so many other things. But this month of Kartik, we become very sincere. So that's good. Yeah. But there's a difference between a sincere and a serious devotee. What's the characteristic of a serious devotee? A serious devotee is not just sincere for 1 month. He or she is sincere for 12 months of the year. And this, year after year. But first, we have to become sincere so that we can become serious. Because for a sincere devotee, we need some extrinsic motivation, which means something has to come from outside to motivate us. But once our engine is working and we have some speed, then we have also intrinsic motivation. Yeah? We feel naturally inspired to practice devotional service. Why? Because we have some taste. And we got that taste from our steady practice. Now, during that month of Kartik, as we said, devotees, they make some extra endeavor. They increase a little bit the fire of their practice. Now you may say, Divya Simha, it's already quite challenging for me to keep up with everything during the year, and now you ask us here to do even more. No? Can you feel with me? I feel with you too. Because I think we are all in the same situation. Life is very busy. We are so distracted in many ways, and it's challenging to keep our practice of devotional service steady. And then sometimes when we make some extra endeavor, we feel in the beginning very inspired, but then after some time it really tears us apart, because maybe we took some vows which we cannot fulfill. And that may not feel so good emotionally. You know? So therefore today we take a little bit different approach. How to make it realistic. How to increase the fire of devotion during that month without getting burned out. You think this is a good idea for our discussion today? Wonderful. So we introduced the topic of the 3 R's. The first one, reconnect. The second, to resolve. And the third, to receive. So let's go back to the basis. Let's reconnect. Let me just have a look at the translators if they can follow up. Very good. So let's go back to the basics. Where do we start? We start with identification. Who am I? Have you ever asked yourself the question, who am I? Yes. Have you already found an answer? Have you already heard before the statement, you are not this body, you are an eternal spiritual soul? Never. Can you raise your hand if you heard it before? Can you keep your hand up if you heard it more than one time? Have you heard it so many times that maybe you don't hear it anymore? Could happen, huh? If something repeatedly comes, maybe at one point we become unconscious about it. That's okay if we have realized it, then it's natural. But if it just goes in here and goes out there, then we may not take the full benefit. So therefore, let's go back to the basics. We have many times heard that statement, you are not this body, you are an eternal spiritual soul. But there's a difference between a theoretical understanding and a practical experience or realization. So how much have we realized actually about our identity? Are we identified more with our body, with our mind, or with our soul? That's something we have to ask ourselves every day. Why this is so important? Because according to our identification, we have a certain way of thinking, feeling, and willing. That's a function which is originally the function of the soul. The soul is very creative, the soul is very active. Radharani, she's thinking the whole day of Krishna. Krishna, he has so much feeling for his devotees. And in the spiritual world, everyone is active. So when we come in contact with the material world, we, the eternal spiritual soul, when we come in contact with matter, we receive this body. This is a cross manifestation of matter. Then there's also a subtle manifestation of matter, which is our mind, our intelligence, and our ego. Now, what is closer to us? This body, the mind, intelligence, the ego, or the soul? What do we see if we look into the mirror? Do you see the soul? We see our beautiful face. But maybe that deludes us a little bit, because we think we are this body. If we look every day into the mirror and we see our face, then at one point we accept, this is who I am. I am this body. Now here's the problem. If we think I'm this body, then I have feelings related with that body. Then I have desires related with that body. And according to my desires, I'm going to start to act. Now, what happens if you do something repeatedly? It becomes common, it becomes a habit. You're actually not conscious about it anymore, you just do it. How conscious are you about brushing your teeth in the morning? You did it so many times. If you would have to make some intellectual exercise out of that every day, and maybe 3, 4, or 5 times a day, that would be very bothering. So therefore, according to our identification, we create certain habits. They may be good, they may be less good. Now, our habits, they define our destiny. Because according to our action, we create certain reactions. If we act in a certain way, then we design our destiny in that direction. So, and here we want to make a difference. We have a body, and the body is very important, because that's our vehicle we have in this material world. Without this body, we couldn't do anything. The soul is the driver within the body, because the soul is infinitesimal small. If I pluck one hair from my head and I try to make 10,000 pieces out of that, so one of these 10,000 pieces, that's actually the size of the soul. You can even try to put it onto a microscope and you will not see it. Why? Not because of the size, because of the quality. Because the soul is spiritual by nature. Now, what can we see with our eyes? I can see you, you can see me. We can see in some distance, but not all too far. We can also not see very close. Everything is getting dark. So we have a limited ability with these senses, which are grouped around the mind and gives us facility to interact with the world. But they are limited to see material objects, and the soul is spiritual by nature. Therefore, with our material eyes, we cannot perceive the soul. Now, does this mean the soul does not exist? So what's the proof? The proof is consciousness. That's the difference between a living body and a dead body. When the soul leaves the body is considered as dead, because there is no living force anymore present. So the symptom of the soul, the proof of the soul, is consciousness, that we are alive. Is this easy to understand? We can also say that's common sense, huh? Now, again, a theoretical understanding of the soul will not help us. Because we want to come to the point where we actually start to act from the level of the soul, where we start to act as a soul, because that's who you are. You are not that body. You are an eternal spiritual soul. Do we agree on that? The soul has some qualities, we spoke about that. And the soul has connections, relationships. there's a beautiful word in Sanskrit which is sambandha. And sambandha means to be tied together. So with whom? The soul has an eternal relationship with God. The soul is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore the soul is so beautiful, because the soul is same in quality than Krishna. There's a difference in quantity. We are not Krishna, we are not God, but we are an eternal part of God. That's the beauty of the soul. And what makes the soul even more beautiful is to be re-established in that relationship with God. That's called sambandha. And as we said, the soul is active by nature. So therefore the soul has this inclination, propensity to serve God. So if the soul wants to be complete in full harmony and ecstasy and bliss, then the soul is identified as a servant of God. That's who we are. We may experience differently because we may be more identified with this body. Therefore I say I'm the servant of my senses, or I'm the servant of my country. Whatever your identification is. But in essence, in originality, the soul is the eternal servant of God. And to be re-established in that relationship is the best thing that can happen to us. But it doesn't happen automatically. It's an eternal relationship, which means it's ever existing, but we turned away from that relationship. So Krishna, he never, separated himself from us. So therefore he has a longing that we turn again towards him. And therefore if you want to please Krishna, then you turn your face again towards Krishna. To give that first sign, Krishna, I'm interested in our relationship. Let's reawaken that spirit. Let's become active again. Easier said than done. Because our life is busy. We said we want to increase our devotion during that month of Kartik, but we have already so many responsibilities. That's a challenge. That's a challenge of modern life or living in this world. And that's actually another part of the sambandha, of this relationship. That this world is meant to give us some challenges. Because as the fish is not at home out of the water, the soul is not at home here in this material world. This is like some foreign environment. But it's the opportunity for us to be re-established in that relationship. If we go to that process, if we accept the lessons which life is teaching us. So that's the beauty of life, to be open-minded, to be aware about your environment, about your relationships, and experience life to the fullest. But we want to take a different perspective. We want to see this world from the level of the soul. Because if we relate the world to our body, then we experience different kinds of challenges, which are our teachers. So therefore we accept them, we welcome them, and we learn through them. But soul consciousness or spiritual awareness is something different. This is to really act from the level of the soul. Now, do you people like meditation? I see some hands. Would you like to make a short meditation exercise?
Yes.
Because what we want to experience the soul now. Yeah. Maybe you did already when you came in here, when you were in the singing, in the chanting. But the Bhagavad Gita, this classical Sanskrit work, gives us a lot of information about the qualities of the soul. Now here a short disclaimer, because the Bhagavad Gita was spoken on a battlefield. We're gonna meditate on some verses from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna speaks about the nature of the soul. But he uses words for Arjuna to whom he is speaking, who is a warrior. So the words, they sound a little bit strong, but let's make the experience. Yes? So for meditation, sit comfortable, whatever that means for you. And take a few breaths so that you arrive, that you feel centered. Just let me open this here. And you can do this with eyes open, eyes closed, whatever is comfortable for you. If you want to close your eyes, it can be helpful if you get comfortable with your environment. You just look around a little bit so that the mind is peaceful, you have seen everything here, and you can securely close your eyes. Now, the soul resides within our sacred space, within our heart. So therefore in our meditation we want to focus to that sacred space. So we're going to soon hear a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita which describe the nature of the soul. And there Krishna says, "That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing and primeval. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. The soul, you, exists in the sacred space. When you find it, you have found the sacred space." So you may stay in that awareness for a while to observe what it feels like and try to engrave that experience on your mind. And when you're ready to finish the exercise, remind yourself, "Now I will return to my body with my consciousness. I will experience different situations, but I am always part of Krishna, an unaffected soul. As I have experienced expected and unexpected situations in the past, so I will continue to experience life in this body. But it's only my body that will be affected." Thank you. So you can slowly come back. How was that experience? Anyone would like to share something? That's the standard reply. Nice. It was nice. So what does nice mean?
Because you can feel the soul.
How does the soul feel like?
Very light.
Light, huh?
Very lovely.
Lovely. So we don't want to create something artificial. if we want to get into an experience, usually we have to repeat that. So this was just an appetizer.
You might get a bit distance from all the anxieties we have. Like, we cannot be destroyed if we are existing all the time if we're serving Krishna. So if we are conscious about that, we can be less fearful.
So if we connect with our eternal nature, we don't have to be so fearful about temporary situations, circumstances, and we feel more secure. Thank you for sharing. So this was just an inspiration based on the Bhagavad Gita, how we can come closer to a spiritual consciousness, to our soul consciousness, to increase or strengthen our spiritual awareness by being conscious about the presence of the soul within our sacred space, within our heart. Now, just one more practical hint. Because we said, if we look into the mirror, what do we see? We see the body. We see our face. So we have certain kind of events during the day which we're doing regularly, which means there can be a kind of trigger to remind us about the presence of the soul. You know? How would it be if we look into the mirror and instead of identifying with the body, we say, I'm an eternal spiritual soul. You can even put a small post-it on your mirror and says, I'm an eternal spiritual soul. We spoke about brushing the teeth. How would it be every time you brush the teeth to remind yourself, I'm an eternal spiritual soul? That's so simple, but it makes a big difference because we bring that consciousness into our day, into our life, into the world. We make a difference. Yeah?
Excuse me. Also, when we look into the mirror, when we see the sparkle in our eyes, also then I see my soul. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, they say the eyes are the mirror to the soul. Huh? And we experience this when we want to connect with a person. If we establish this eye contact, then we feel immediately what kind of connection do we have. Yeah. So this was our first R, reconnect. To reconnect with our eternal identity as a spirit soul in relationship with God, with Krishna. Yes, please.
Thank you. This question always pop up in my mind often and often and often. I answer myself, I would like answer from you. Science and the materialist way says that the consciousness is in the brain. And when the brain is, for example, we are in coma, so there's no consciousness and there's no life because we are like that. We don't see, we don't. That's why that's what I pop up in my mind. If the soul is if the consciousness is in the soul, so we're in coma, we are not dead, and why it seems that we are dead in coma because we don't realize. So I would like an explanation and something from you.
So how many people are coming back from coma? It's not, for many it's not the final point. Many are coming back from coma. We just had a good friend who was in coma for some time, but he came back. You too?
Yes.
Yeah, so personal experience. When we are in that state of being unconscious, our subtle body is disconnected from our gross body. That's also called the dream state. Yeah? When we're dreaming every night, we have a dream that we are somewhere completely different where our body is. So there's a disconnection between the gross body and the subtle body. And this is, I'm not a medical practitioner, so therefore I cannot give you a scientific answer to that. But that may be the same situation when someone is in coma. Yeah. So let's move on, because we have two more R's which we have to discover today so that our practice becomes complete. Because theoretical understanding alone will not help us. We need something to practice on a regular basis. And that's our second R, which is resolve. Now, resolve in that context, we're speaking about transformation. Because this process of bhakti should lead to a change of heart. If we practice and not feeling any change, any transformation, then we have to increase the intensity a little bit. Yeah? Or maybe we have to be a little bit patient, because the process may take a certain time. Like, for how many lifetimes have you practiced already this process or any other process? Now, if you want to experience a transformation, a change of heart, then we have to make a switch. We have to move from a kind of casual practice of Krishna consciousness to an intense practice of Krishna consciousness. So, what does casual mean? Sometimes it's good to define the opposite so that we have more clarity about what we actually want. How would you define a casual practice of Krishna consciousness?
Something you can maintain for a long time. That's casual.
Okay. To maintain a practice over long term, you would say that's casual. Any more thoughts? What's casual practice? What does that word casual actually mean? How would you define casual?
It's not regular.
Yeah, sometimes. If I'm in a good mood today, I'm gonna practice. But if the weather is not good, then today I will not practice anything. So how will this casuality express itself in our practice? What about our goals? Do you think we're gonna set some goals if you're just a casual practitioner? No, because this creates some kind of pressure. It feels very uncomfortable. What about the priority we give if you're a casual practitioner? No, there's so many other things to do, and they're also important, because there's a new series on Netflix, and the weather is good, let's go out. We can also practice bhakti outside, so no problem with that. But the point which we want to make, there's a difference between a casual practice and an intense practice of devotion. Now, let's brainstorm a little bit. If you want to increase that intensity, how could we do that? What would be practical steps to increase the intensity in our practice? What would you do, Carlo, if you want to increase the intensity of your practice?
Commitments.
Commitments.
Sangha, the community.
Mm-hmm. To be more in community, to get inspiration from association. What else? Pray. To pray. Okay. Yeah.
Desire, asking for it.
So let's think a little bit in categories. Because we said in the beginning, during this month of Kartik, devotees, they like to increase their practice of Krishna consciousness, of devotional service. May I ask someone who is sitting over there to turn on the light? I feel it's getting a little bit dark in here. We changed the time tonight, and so what is one way how to increase the intensity? It could be through quantity. And what is the classical example? Prabhu, let's chant more rounds. So, how long can we maintain that? What about how to increase the quality? That's already more realistic, because quantity, the problem is we already have not enough time. If you put more on our plate, then indigestion. Yeah. But quality, that sounds realistic. Let's keep that example of chanting. We're chanting on beats, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and we do this for a fixed number of rounds every day. So some, they have committed to chant 16 rounds per day. This takes around 2 hours, more or less. This is a time which we dedicate every day for our meditation. Now, if we increase the quality of our chanting, Does it mean we have to invest more time, more quantity? No. I give you my personal example, because I try to be very regular with what I'm doing. But sometimes this interferes with my practice of chanting japa. Because 6:30 I have to do this. If I have not finished my japa, then I have to interrupt my japa. Now, my wife, she took at one time a vow, and she said that she will not do anything before chanting 16 rounds. But she's a very active person, so therefore she gives priority to finishing the 16 rounds. And she finished those in one sitting. Then I thought, okay, I'm gonna try that too. Because I had some remembrance, like when I was a young monk and we were traveling, every morning we chanted 16 rounds in one row, in one sitting, which took around 2 hours. So I started to practice this for a couple of months, and I saw a difference. I saw a difference in the quality of my chanting. I felt more absorbed, I felt more connected, I felt more revived from my chanting. I felt more chanting in a relationship with Krishna. The chanting became alive for me. It's not every day like this, okay? But I felt the difference. I increased the quality of my chanting. And now, believe it or not, the time to finish my quota reduced. Why? Because I was more conscious, I was more connected, I was more aware for what I'm doing, more attentive. So to increase the quality, that's something realistic. This we can try. Another way could be to increase the intensity of our devotional service, to take a little bit more difficulties on us. We call this austerities or tapa. Tapa means also fire, to increase the fire. So how many of you like austerities? These people with this orange clothes, they take a lot of austerities on them. So life is already tough enough, okay? So no need to make things more complicated. We don't have to stand on one leg for the whole month or take some ice bath in the morning. Not necessary. Bhakti should be practiced with joy. Now, I want to share some anecdote. Time is running, but this is funny. Because as a monk, I also like to practice austerity. And I even like to do this nowadays, but just a little bit less. And with one of my spiritual brothers, we went to the Holy Land of Vrindavan during the months of Kartik. We used to do this almost every year. So we retired for a whole month. We went to a very remote place and just chanted the whole day. And we took some austerities. And one of the austerities, which actually many try to do during this month of Kartik, is to not to take sweets. Now, guys, I really like sweets. Especially those who have been offered to Krishna, because Krishna also likes sweets. So there's such a variety of sweets. So during this month of Kartik, we said, no sweets. Govardhan Puja in between, a festival of sweets. But no problem. Now, what happens if you put some restriction on you? You start to think about this all the time. Yeah. And this happened with us. We were sitting there at our remote place, trying to chant Hare Krishna, and what were we thinking of? Sweets. Then one day, one evening, our spiritual master came to our ashram. He liked that place for chanting also. And guess what? He came with a whole plate of sweets. Mahaprasadam from Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. And he said, you two must be very eager for sweets. So that's the mercy of the spiritual master. He knows what is in your heart. And so austerities can be difficult. Now, another way to increase the intensity in our devotional service, to take more responsibility. We come as a guest, but then we see there's something to do. So I take responsibility for that. And maybe because I come every Sunday, I say I'm going to do that every Sunday. For example, cleaning the floor, or doing this, serving prasadam, whatever it is. Which means to care for something, to be attentive. That could be another way how to increase our devotional service. Now, as you already hear, the four of them, quantity, quality, difficulty, and responsibility, they are all external. We have to do something to get an experience of it. Now, here's the good thing. Bhakti is not about quantity. Bhakti is all about quality. It's the quality of our absorption, our attention, which we bring into the activity. And if you want to get really deep, I gave you that example of my chanting of japa, which I did 16 rounds in one sitting. It increased the quality. And why? Because I did it regularly. I did it every day. So this is the key, that's the secret. If you want to increase your devotion, then do something regularly. This was the second R, resolve. So let's move to the third one, which is to receive. Now, what we spoke so far is what we can do. But how much strength do we have? How limited are we in our own abilities? And this is what this month of Kartik is all about. To reach out for help. To make some conscious endeavor which will attract Krishna's attention. And you're going to receive Krishna's mercy. And for this we have to change our mindset. Because usually we think through our achievements we're going to get something. But now we want to change the position. We want to become a receiver instead of an achiever. Both is needed, because through our endeavors we attract the mercy. And this is so beautifully displayed in this pastime of Damodar, which we see here on the altar. You see in the front, there is Yashoda, Krishna's mother, and Krishna, who is bound by a rope. Now, what you don't see on the forehead of Yashoda, the pearls of sweat. Because she tried for a long time to bind that little Krishna with that rope. And she was running behind him, trying to catch him. And once she caught him, she tried to bind him to a mortar. But whenever she wanted to make a knot, this rope was always 2 fingers too short. And she got more ropes. She connected them. And again the rope was 2 fingers too short. And she brought all the ropes she could find, and they were always 2 fingers too short. So what does this 2 finger represent? These 2 fingers represent our endeavor, which attract Krishna's mercy. So this is the ultimate secret in bhakti. Through our endeavor, Krishna becomes attracted. And whatever we are limited to, Krishna, he will add the missing link. So, to attract Krishna's mercy, we do not only have to increase our external intensity, but also our internal. Because there's only one price which you have to pay to get Krishna's mercy. It is to be greedy, to be very eager, to have a very strong desire to achieve Krishna's mercy. And once you have that eagerness, it will manifest into enthusiasm, into an attraction. So not to be engaged in devotional service becomes impossible. You jump out of the bed in the morning and you say, Hari Bol. Another day to be engaged in devotional service. That's eagerness. And this attracts Krishna's mercy. That's the internal qualities which we have to develop to increase that intensity.
Eagerness with heart.
And this happens in the association of devotees. Because there we meet these like-minded spirits who have that eagerness. So we're looking for that kind of, like a honeybee, we're going into the association of devotees and look, where's the nectar here? And the nectar is in the hearing and the chanting. To hear about Krishna, to hear about his pastimes, and to chant his holy names, this is where this change of the heart happens. From there we get spiritual strength, spiritual power. You see, those two go together. We are externally, we are active. We engage our body, our mind, our senses. But we have to bring our consciousness together with that. We have to cultivate these internal qualities too. Because maybe internally we are very strong, but if we don't act on it, then at one point we are just not enthusiastic about it anymore. Because the soul is active by nature, the soul wants to be engaged in Krishna's service, engaged in service to the devotees. Then we are alive, then the soul is alive. And if you are very busy externally, but have not the right mindset, have not developed the proper qualities internally, then it's just not sustainable. For how long can we maintain a kind of artificial way of practicing our devotional life? Srila Prabhupada used to say, to be a show bottle devotee, to make a show of devotion. This is something we cannot maintain, because devotion is in the heart. It's an expression of love. It has to be real. So what we're looking for is a long-term engagement in devotional service. And therefore, it's so important to develop these qualities of internal and external intensity. That's the fire of devotion. This is what will keep us alive and which will move us forward on our path of liberation. So this was the third R, to receive the mercy. Let's summarize quickly what we spoke about. The first R was reconnect. Thank you. Which means to reconnect with our nature of a soul and act from that consciousness. And for this we have to remind ourselves on a daily basis. What was the second R? To resolve. To increase the intensity of our devotion, the fire, by being engaged in practical activities. And the third, which we just spoke about, to receive. To be engaged and to receive that mercy of Krishna. And for this we have to be very eager. Now I want to leave you with 3 questions, which you can reflect a little bit. And I'm gonna ask you when I see you again, I'm gonna ask you what happened. So ask yourself, what can I start today for the next 30 days during this month of Kartik? What can I start? Something which is a positive activity. That's the first question. The second is, what should I maybe stop? At least for the next 30 days. What should I maybe stop? And the third one is, what should I continue? What is already sustaining me, giving me life, energy? What should I continue to do? Because, often it's not so much about doing more things. It's actually about doing less things. Because then we can do the important things with more attention, with more consciousness. Yeah? So ask yourself, what do you want to do? What do you want to start during this month of Kartik, for this next 30 days? And it should be something which brings you closer to Krishna. And to come closer to Krishna means to remember Krishna. What helps you to remember Krishna in your day-to-day life? That's something which you would like to start. And what you would like to stop is something which pulls you away from Krishna, which distracts you, something which is not favorable. And remember, the key is do something regularly. It's not so much about what you put on your plate, but see that you have good quality in what you're doing and do it regular. And then you're going to experience a change of heart. And once you have experienced a change of heart, you will not be the same person again. So when we all meet again after 30 days, we're going to be new people. We're going to be a better version of ourselves because we put that fire of devotion into our practice. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry I'm just finished in time, but there should always be some space for question and answers. I think they're going to forgive us maybe if we go 5 minutes more. But if it's 5 minutes and 1 second, then they may take away the feast and we have to starve till tomorrow. So, if you have to leave already, feel free. But if you have any questions or comments, you're mostly invited to share.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question about that we are not the body, we are the soul. And I see my son, that every time I repeat it for him, but very nicely and just sometimes, not too much. It's like it's going here and then here. It's like, I know, Mom. So maybe, do you have some advice? Shall the children pass maybe through it, that they are identified? For example, he's very much identified by the nationality of his father. So should I just let him be for some years in this?
What's the age of your son?
He's 7.
7.
Yeah.
So he's in the way of exploring the world.
Yes.
That's his phase of life. And usually restriction, actually in this age, children need some restriction, but this is about he finds his identity now. Yeah. So I think it would not be favorable to say, no, you're not this nationality, no, you're not this body. I wouldn't do that. But what you could do... I think with children I would be very sensitive. Here we're speaking to adults. Children don't listen. No, children usually they're distracted, so they're looking around, but they're also hearing because the soul hears, the soul is present. Now, what I would recommend, or suggest, what you could do, just read to your son. Read to your son about Krishna's pastimes. There are so many beautiful books for children, and this will ignite in him a natural attraction. And then at one point he says, Mom, I'm an eternal spiritual soul, I'm a servant of Krishna. So then you don't have to tell him, he will come to his own realization. Lecture is finished and he comes. What's your name?
Zasan.
Zasan. That's a beautiful name. And we know already that you're 7 years old. When is your birthday?
22 July 2016.
Oh, okay, so we're going to celebrate next year again, huh? Welcome. Any last question or comment? Yes, we go first here, then you, huh?
Hare Krishna, thank you for the speech.
Thank you.
It's a personal question about service. That it's hard for me to continue the daily because I work really like 12 hours every day plus 2 hours more for driving, so I don't have time, and this is really frustrates me because I would like to even chant a bit. I do it when I'm off, and I come when it's possible. I come Sunday here. But it's really hard for me in these days where I work, and this is really frustrating me. So that's why I ask maybe you give me some advice.
Yeah, you're frustrated. You're frustrated because you put a certain expectation onto your practice, and you cannot fulfill it, and the result is you're not satisfied with it. So how would it be if you adjust your practice to your present circumstances? And there's the formal practice and the informal practice. Formal means we are sitting down, we meditate, and we're just doing this one activity. But then during the day we are active, and we can take that consciousness which we cultivated in the morning, or yesterday, or the day before yesterday, into our day-to-day activities. Yeah? And this is so beautiful in Krishna consciousness. Because whatever we do, if we clean the temple, if we clean our home, if we cook, whatever we do, we do in that consciousness, I'm doing this for Krishna, that's devotional service. Yeah? So when you go to work, you can take that mindset with you. This is my service I'm doing now. This is my responsibility for my maintenance, for the maintenance of my family. So this is my service. Yeah? It's a change of consciousness. Yeah. Last question.
It's like a realization. I realized that, or I heard that it needs 30 days at least to change a habit or something we do. And maybe this month of Kartik can be a change when we try to make an endeavor in our quality of bhakti, to come from a sincere devotee to hopefully a serious devotee, and then we can practice for the whole year.
Absolutely.
Only for Kartik. And one little question, if it's possible. Sometimes when we do service or we want to do an effort, the heart is not fully there yet. But is it anyway a good thing to do more also if the heart is not there yet, and it will come maybe with the service we do?
So you're very active and you ask if you should do even more, even you're not feeling like the heart is really involved there.
Yes.
Yeah? So I think just doing more will not bring the heart automatically closer. Because what is needed is that conscious effort, that we started with reconnect, reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with our relationship with Krishna. Yeah. So when we bring this connection into our activities, then we have an experience of bhakti there. Otherwise, we are engaged, but where's our consciousness? Yeah. So we want to bring the two together. The external and the internal. Yeah. So doing more is not a guarantee that your heart comes closer. Yeah. But what you can do to be more in the association of devotees, because there you get that inspiration, there you're reminded that actually I'm doing this for Krishna. Yeah. And your first point regarding the habits, we have an expert here about habits. So 30 days, some say 30, some say